All right, so today we're going to move to the other side of the market and start looking at supply. Now, supply is on the production side of things. This can be the actual businesses producing products, or it can be businesses that are like resellers, like Walmart, don't really produce most of what they're selling. They buy it from companies and then they charge you a little bit more for them to sell it. So we're talking about both aspects here, but we're looking at how much businesses are supplying, and then we're going to be taking a look at why they change how much they supply when different things change. But today it's just going to be the basics. So when we talk about supply, what we're talking about is the amount businesses are willing and able to offer for sale at all possible prices. Okay, so two things are really important here. We have the willingness and the ability to offer products for sale. All right, so ability refers to do these businesses actually have the money, the resources, the capability to produce or to offer these products, right? And then willingness is, are they actually willing to use that money, resources, and capabilities to make these products or to sell these products? Sometimes they have the ability and not the willingness, and so they would not be supplying these products. They would not be included in this. And sometimes they have the willingness but not the ability, and again, they would not be included in supply because that would just be like a wish or a dream for the business. So only businesses that are willing and able to offer products for sale are included in supply. Now, something really important to remember is that supply, that amount that they're putting out for sale, is not the same as the amount being sold. Those are two different amounts. When you are supplying something, it just means they're putting it on the shelves or they're selling it online, and they're hoping people buy it, right? That doesn't actually mean that's how much consumers will demand. Sometimes the amount that businesses supply is too much and they have extra, and sometimes they don't supply enough. Consumers want more than they're willing to produce. And so there would be a shortage in that case. So sales and supply are two different amounts here. So we're really only looking at how much right now, how much is being supplied. All right, now, like with demand, we still look at the same two variables. We have price and quantity. And when we're looking at price and we're seeing, okay, here's what the selling price is, how much are businesses willing and able to offer, we call that the quantity supplied. It's one particular price and how much is being offered at that price. And that gives us our quantity supplied. So when the price changes, that incentive for businesses change. And so how much they're willing and able to offer is going to change as well. Okay. Now, we can look at price and quantity two ways. We can look at it in a table, in a chart, or we can graph it. All right, so when we look at it in this table, this is called a supply schedule. Looks a lot like a demand schedule. Same thing, except different side of the market here. So we have a demand schedule for pizza, just slices of pizza, not whole pizza, but we go from $5 down to $1. And if we looked at a pizza place and like how many slices would you be willing and able to supply, these are some of the numbers we could see. 30 at 5, 28 at 4, 24 at 3, 16 at 2, and 5 at $1. Right? And if you're looking at these prices and these quantities supplied, right, at $3, only 24 slices, which is different than if the price is $4 and there's 28 slices. Right? Now, if you're looking at this, you're noticing as the price decreases, we go 5 down to $1. Our quantity supplied is also going down. It goes from 30 down to 5. They're both moving in the same direction. If we were to increase price, quantity supplied would increase. That relationship is explained in something called the law of supply. The law of supply says that when the price increases, quantity supplied will increase, and vice versa. If the price were to decrease, the quantity supplied would also decrease. Now, the reason for that is tied to the goal of businesses, right? If you start a business, your goal is to make money, right? That's what you're trying to do. This is how you're earning a living. You're running this business here. And so all the decisions that they make come back to that goal, right? Their decisions are always focused on, is this going to maximize my profit or minimize my profit. And they want to be maximizing their profit here. And so something that we have to do and businesses do is they compare their cost to their benefit. And so there's something called marginal benefit. So marginal is additional. So what this means is that as the price increases, their marginal benefit will increase as well, right? Because as they produce one more unit, their ability to make more money is going to be greater and greater. And so their benefit is going to outweigh the cost. And that explains why at high prices, businesses are willing to offer more for sale than they are at low prices. So to give you a visual here, right? Back to our supply schedule, we have our, price and quantity supplied. Not quantity supplied, we just have our price listed here. If it costs 80 cents per slice for production, right? Doesn't matter what we're selling it for, it's 80 cents to produce. If we only sold pizza for $1, 80 cents from that dollar went to cover our costs. That only leaves us 20-cent revenue, which isn't that much, right? Our cost of 80 cents is greater than our benefit of 20 cents. So it's not worth it here. And so we want to look at prices where our cost is going to be greater than it is, our benefit is going to be greater than our cost. So if we look here at each additional dollar, we have the opportunity to earn more profit. At $5, we have an opportunity of $4.20 per slice. That's a lot of incentive. That's a lot more money that can be earned than when it is at $1, which is why businesses would be more willing to offer more for sale at $5 because they're able to maximize their profit. Now, again, this doesn't mean every slice of pizza they offer for $5 is going to sell. Maybe consumers aren't willing to pay that. We don't know. But what if they did pay $5? And that what if is enough to justify that opportunity of revenue and that production increase at those higher prices. All right. Now, if we want to see this on a graph, we can also take our supply schedule and we can plot these points. So just like with demand, price always goes on the vertical axis, and quantity always goes on the horizontal axis on the bottom. Okay, so what we do is we say, okay, $5.30 are being demanded. So we would see where does $5.30 meet, and we would put a point there. And at 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, right? So we're taking these numbers and we're plotting them here with price on the side, quantity on the bottom. Now these individual points represent quantity supplied, right? At $4, boom, here's how much is being supplied. At $2, here's how much is being supplied. And these points are different because the price is different, and so the amount being supplied is different. Now, if we zoom out and we want just an overview of this market, we don't know where the selling price is. We just want to know what could happen. We would connect the dots, and this gives us our supply curve. Okay, now you'll notice this looks different than a demand curve, right? If we're reading this from left to right like a book, we're starting low and our curve is ending high. We call that upward sloping. Okay, now if you don't have the data points, it may not look this kind of shape here. If we don't know what the numbers are, we just draw a straight line that is upward sloping. Okay, we're going to call it a curve even though it's a straight line here. If it helps to remember, demand went downward, so we have our two D's. Supply goes to the sky, so you have your two S's here. Okay, and so your supply curve is always going to be upward sloping. Now, it could be more vertical. That happens when it's easier for businesses to switch their production. If they're like, oh, we really need more, and they're like, boom, done. They're going to have a more vertical, they're going to have a more horizontal curve. If it's more difficult for them to produce, they're going to have a more horizontal curve, which is like, okay, well, price is increasing and we want to produce more, but we don't have the capabilities to do so. And so they're only able to produce a little bit more instead of a lot more. You would have a more vertical curve, all right? But either way, our supply curve is going to be upward sloping, and we always label it at the highest point. We call it S1 for our original curve. Now, like with demand, life changes. Businesses set the selling price, and so at times they need to change the selling price. When they change that selling price, they're also going to change how much they are offering for sale because it changes their incentive and it changes their opportunity for profit. So we call that a change in quantity supplied, right? When there is a price change, the only thing changing is quantity supplied. And we're going to show that as a movement along the curve. So if we go back to our pizza slices, we say pizza was being sold for $4. So we see, where does that $4 intersect our curve? That's right here. So we put our quantity supplied point. And we drop the price to $2. Where that intersects our supply curve is a different point, right? It's going to be less because we're closer to cost. So less is going to be offered. And so we show that with our 2 points on the same exact supply curve, no new supply curve. And we just use an arrow to show which way that direction shifted. Okay. Now, if the selling price doesn't change, but something else in suppliers' lives is changing, then we say it's a change in supply. Right. And in this case, we would have an entirely new supply curve. It's going to shift depending on what's happening. And those reasons for that change come from the 8 different determinants that we'll get into later. But most of them end up affecting operating cost, right? So if you have your selling price set somewhere, but your cost changes, that changes your revenue option, right? And so even though the selling price hasn't changed, your incentive to produce more or less has changed. And that is where we see that supply change happening. Okay, so if we have the selling price here, here's our original quantity, and now suddenly there's more being offered for sale, that means that there's more for sale at the same price. That's an increase in supply. And so our entire curve would shift. Even if that price were lower, something else is encouraging producers to supply more, right? If we see the price and the quantity was to decrease, even if that price increase, there's less in the market than before, something else, it's not price related, is discouraging producers from supplying, and so they're going to lower that. So there'll be a decrease in supply. Okay, what I want you to do here is go back to the agenda, and you're going to click on the what is supply assignment. So it's going to be the Word doc here. You're going to answer questions in the gray box. So number 1, answer the question. Doesn't have to be complete sentences. 2, 3, and 4, you're going to use words here from the Word box. Nothing gets duplicated, and one of the words won't get used. Okay. 5, 6, 7, and 8, check the box that completes a sentence. And then number 9, we have a supply schedule for toasters. I want you to tell me which graph accurately shows the supply curve. Okay, when you're done, submit it back to Canvas, and that will be it for today.